Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. Oh, we've got some good pods coming your way over the next 10 days or so. Working backwards, it's a Guineas special Friday week. We've got Punchestown on Monday, our special ahead of 5 fantastic days at Punchestown. And here we are looking ahead to Sandown in the main, one from Haydock across Friday and Saturday. Love this time of year where the two codes collide. So tomorrow, as we look at it, Friday, it is Sandown on the flat. 4 races we're previewing for you there. And then it's the end of the jump season on Saturday, where we've got the 365 Gold Cup, which is the feature handicap. It's got some graded races for you as well. And we've chucked in an easy one on the flat as well from Haydock-ish. Joined by Matchbook Zone, and he's got a polo shirt now, Micheál Deasy. Everyone's favourite tipster whose name begins with an S. I didn't know who to go for. Both of you, Steve and Sam. Steve Jones and Sam Turner. And I'll throw in a bit of waffle along the way as well. Deas, give us the offer. If nobody knows it by now, shame on you. But the Matchbook new sign-up offer is...
So our sign-up offer is 0% commission on all sports for 30 days. So if you sign up today with bonus code INSIGHTS, you're getting 0% commission for your first month of betting on Matchbook.
Use that bonus code INSIGHTS, 18 plus, be gamble aware, for that offer for new customers only. And you guarantee yourself a best odds, as you do on the exchange anyway, but with 0% commission, you're guaranteed it. Right, let's get stuck into the previews. We're going to start with Friday, first of all. 4 races on the flat. Easiest of the lot-ish is the Esher Cup, the 150 at Sandown. Some could be anything 3-year-olds lining up in here. Betting, Deas, how do they bet?
Yeah, so Ilzaim is favourite at 3.85. Then you have Rifleman at 4.7. Dingle is in there at 7.0. Namus is 8.0, and it's big prices than the rest.
Right, I want to come to Jonesy first because everyone watched the Matchbook betting podcast last week. It was a double act, but it was Morecambe and Wise-esque. Let's be honest. Jonesy and I both put up Dingle, and I'm against him here. But you're with him. What is it you like about Dingle here again, Jonesy, on the quick backup?
I'm just trying to work out which one I am, Morecambe or Wise. Obviously, Wise by name, but I don't know.
Sam can answer that.
I can, yeah. You've got a toupee like Ernie anyway, put it that way.
That's the answer we all wanted. Go on, Jonesy.
Well, if Dingle wasn't drawn so wide, I'd be very confident. I thought he ran well. I know he's backing up 7 days later, but that shouldn't be a problem. I thought that was a really good race last week, won by Mithras. He got messed around a little bit. He was beaten 2.5 lengths, but he wouldn't have been beaten that far had he not been hampered in the closing stages a little bit. So I thought that was a really good run, and that sort of gives him a fitness advantage over most of the others. I think there's quite a bit of pace in here, which is why I'm hoping that stall 10 won't be a problem, because hopefully you'll be able to just slot in somewhere midfield-ish. And I thought that was a really good run last week in a good race. And I think stepping up to returning to a mile, his only win came over a mile at Kempton on the all-weather, and going back up in distance, I think will help him certainly. So I think Dingle's got a fair bit going for him apart from the draw. It's interesting to see Chateau d'If in there because, as you know, being a student of the classics, that Chateau d'If was the prison where the Count of Monte Cristo was locked up before he escaped. So not only do you get a winning tip, you get a history and literature lesson as well. So I'm with Dingle.
Yeah, he was a good cigar maker, Count of Monte Cristo. You are also with Dingle, Sam. What do you want to add to what Steve said?
Not a lot really, other than Dingle is a nickname for Wolverhampton Wanderers fans. We are known as the Dingles by beloved West Bromwich Albion rivals. So there was only ever one horse I could pick here, given that I'm now selecting horses by way of fanciful names and nicknames. But I did also think thought he ran really well at Newbury. I think the stretch back out to a mile. I think I really take on board what Steve has to say about the draw. It's a really awkward draw, but if ever there's a man you need, Sean Levy's the man. And I just thought it was a really good run in a very hot handicap. I thought the second ran really well, of Roger Varian's. And I just think that Dingle, at least he's got race fitness and sharpness on his side here. I think he's a very fair each-way bet. The one I'm probably quite worried about is Namoose, who clocked a really good figure at Musselburgh. And although that race hasn't started working out yet, we haven't seen too many horses to emerge from it. So I wouldn't castigate the form just yet, but I think he could run well, even off top weight as well.
It's funny you should say that because Deasy and I are in his camp. But I'll come back to you first of all, Steve.
Yeah, I was just surprised by Sam saying that Wolves fans are called Dingle. I didn't know there was more than one. I thought you were the only one. You used plural. I was just a bit puzzled by that.
Robert Plant, lead singer of the greatest rock band ever formed.
What, Genesis?
Oh God! God forbid.
We started well.
We're talking about rock bands here. Rock bands. We're talking about, Jonesy.
I take it. Dingle's not a term of endearment from the
Not
rival.
especially. They go by one or two that are worse than that. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you mentioned the Moose. I'll let you lead off with this. He's top weight. I think it's a really tricky race. So it's not a best bet material go at the Moose. But Ben Curtis is riding really well. Mark Johnson's in fine form, and I quite like the way he stuck at it last time on the figures. As Sam says, it was pretty good. Dees, what's your angle with the Moose?
Yeah, it's the same as that. I just thought he was very good last time. I mean, himself in the second they were a good bit clear of the horse in third. I like March. I like the way that they run. I like front runners. You go off out in front, and they will have to catch him. And again, like he's top weight, but that doesn't really matter in a race like this. I think there's a lot of them are probably going to improve a lot. But I think just at the price, I think that he's a nice bet at about I think he's 8.0. Happy enough with that. And just on a bit, seeing as everyone is getting a bit of trivia, Dingle is a town in West Kerry, which is a great place to go on a 4-day session.
Look at that! You don't just get bets on a Matchbook betting podcast. Personally, I was when it's quick ground at Sandown, and I thought he would get the lead here personally. I don't like a horse that's miles off it. That would worry me slightly. Does anybody have any hard and fast rules about how you want to ride Sandown on the flat when it's quick ground, or is it fair enough? Steve, you're nodding. Yeah,
you don't want to be too far back, in my opinion. Jumps or flat. I think the way that they come down the back and round the turn, and although it's significantly uphill, it's a good climb. I don't like horses that are ridden off the pace here. They have to go too fast, in my opinion, for horses to come from off the pace. But if you see a horse finishing from off the pace or does actually win from off a normal gallop, then they're usually pretty decent.
Right, we're done with the Esher Cup. We're in two camps, Dingle and Namoose. Done. Good. It's blue corner against red corner. Right, Gordon Richard Stakes. I'm sitting this one out. I had too many question marks about them all, to be honest. Prices first of all, these.
Yeah, so highest ground is the favourite at 3.4. Then you Volcanic is 4.3. Hookham is 5.4. Thunderous is 6.2. Extra Elusive is 8.6. Desert Encounter is 20.0. And Winter Reprise is 50s.
We've got three different horses going up here. Two best bets in there. Steve, the one I was closest to backing was Valkoenig. I thought at a point bigger than highest ground, that was fair. But I worry about the ground a little bit. So where are you? Why Valkoenig?
I've just always liked this horse ever since he made his debut just before Christmas at Wolverhampton, when he bolted that by 9 or 10 lengths, I think it was. And sorry, that was last winter rather than this winter. And then he was odds on for a listed race at Newmarket, which on the face of it was disappointing. But when you consider the winner was Mishriff, it doesn't look all that disappointing. And we only saw him once more when Highest Ground beat him at Haydock, where I still think that was a good run from a horse that was learning. That was only his third start, and I know that we were dealing with 3-year-olds early in the season because of the COVID shutdown. It was still a good effort, and he came out at Pontefract and won really well this year. So he's got the advantage of having a run a couple of 3 weeks ago over Highest Ground. But it's his pedigree as well. The family are just so good. I mean, obviously, as his name suggests, he's half brother to Waldgeist, the Arc winner. But then there's also really good winners elsewhere in there. Waldstern was a good horse, and another horse beginning with W, Waldlide, is a Group 2 winner. So it's a quality pedigree with the top trainer in the country, or the top 2 trainers in John and is Thaddeus, the son, who are going really well. Frankie rides. I do respect Highest Ground, but he had a funny year after making that winning return at Haydock, in that he was beating it odds on in the Dante by Thunderous, and then he wasn't seen again until October on soft ground when he bombed out. So I just see Wold Koenig is a bit more solid because we know where we are with him, having seen him at Pontefract, even though that's obviously nowhere near this grade. It's a horse I like. I think he is going to be very, very good. And at the moment, I think 1 mile and 2 is perfectly okay. I'd say in time he'll want to go up in distance, but where we are now, I think he's got a lot going for him, and I think he can turn that form round with Highest Ground from last season, having had the run under his belt.
Why can't Sam he turn that form around, according to you? Or why shouldn't he? Why can't is the wrong phrase, because he can, but why shouldn't he?
I think we're talking about a different beast in Sir Michael Stout this year. Obviously, there was a lot of issues last year with the sad loss of his longtime partner. I don't think things particularly worked out last year, whereas this year they really have hit the ground running. They're in great nick at the moment, the Stout team. And I think, they've had a number of first-time out winners. I really respect Val Koenig because that listed race that he finished third in behind Mishrif, that worked out unbelievably well. And the pace that went in that race, I mean, the sectional times were on a par with what the sprinters did that day. The overall time was phenomenal. If you follow times, you knew that Mishrif was something special. Now, you perhaps didn't expect him to be quite as special as he is and achieve what he has done, but it was no surprise he went on to win a French Derby. So it's a very, very strong piece of form. But I just think that Highest Ground got stuck in the mud a little bit towards the back end, or in his last 2 runs. I thought the Dante run was sound. He was taking on a good horse that really appreciated the track and the ground. And then the Newmarket run, however many weeks and months afterwards, I think that can be forgotten really on back end ground. I think back on a fast surface, we've seen him first time out in a couple of starts. He was really impressive at Leicester. That was a sort of a world-class performance really, to do what he did after the start he got that day. And then beating Val Koenig at Haydock first time out. Best fresh, this horse, I think. Good ground, good fast ground, proper flat racing ground. I think he should go well.
There was a lot of buzz about him last year, wasn't there? And the season just tailed off a bit for him, but I'm looking forward to seeing him. And Deasy, you're going a bit out of left field with a horse that you think's best bet material.
Yeah, Hcap is the one I selected. I thought he was very good last year, and I mean he was almost sent off. I think he was favoured at the start of the day for the Ledger before all the money came for Santiago. Now he's dropping a good bit in distance, but he won his maiden over a mile. He's won over 1.5 miles. He's won over 1.5 miles. This is 1-2. I just think he's a very high class horse, and he's the highest rated in this field as it is. We'll be worried that All Burrows hasn't had a winner yet this year, but a few of his horses have run well. There's been money for Hcap as well. He's actually almost, I think he's joint second favourite on the books, but he's 5.4 on the exchange. So as a price play, I'm happy enough to go with him win only. I think he'll run very well. Although this is an absolutely outstanding race, but I think Hcap has a lot more progression in him this year.
He's interesting back in trip. That Kempton performance, I can't remember how long ago it was, but that was electric, and probably didn't quite work out for him in the Ledger. I still haven't made my mind up, so there you go. I'll follow one of you, I'm sure. That's the Gordon Richards. Anybody want to add anything to that, guys? Happy?
No, all done.
Right, let's move on to the mile. Dees, we've got a warm order at the top of the betting. Again, people are going to look forward to seeing this horse again.
Yeah, so Palace Pier is the favourite. He's very sharp price. He's 1.5. Then you have Kazam is 3.35. Happy Power is 10.5. And Bless Him is 25.0.
I'm interested in this because I thought it was a race that we might leave as far as, what do you want to say about Palace Pier? But maybe there is a play in there. Sam, kick us off with this.
Well, it's probably futile trying to take on Palace Pier. I'm quite surprised to see him in this race. I've got to be honest. I thought perhaps he'd go Lockinge, Royal Ascot, and then onwards and upwards, perhaps even over a mile and a quarter, perhaps as the season wore on, and taking race like the Juddmonte, etc., like that. But he starts off here. He's got a very good record fresh. He's got any amount of pounds and ounces in hand of his nearest rival. So it seems probably folly trying to take him on. But I'm not convinced that he'd be absolutely 100% wound up, whereas Kazam will be. And I just think Kazam probably offers a little bit of value. I think he's got a bit of X factor, this horse, that he's got the ability of being able to quicken, as he showed on All Weather Finals Day. Now, that was a modest race. He beat Mum's Tipple that day, who probably wasn't running over his optimum conditions, i.e. a mile at Lingfield, but still did it in really good fashion. He's clocked some very good speed figures as well on the All Weather, on the synthetic surface. And if he can just translate that to turf in what might be a tactical race, I don't think he's the worst player in the world at 3.75, 3.8, whatever he might be. I just think with Palace Pier there might be other options further down the line which are obviously more pressing. I mean, that goes without saying really, because this is a Group 2 and he's a proper Group 1 performer, whereas this is a Group 1 in all but name for Kazam. Really, this is a real early season target for him, and he can have that race sharpness on his side. So I'll take a bit of a chance with him at a price, I think.
Yeah, I've been impressed with him this year. I can see him running well. But are we definitely forgiving Palace Pier a bit like Steve? You can answer this if you like. A bit like Lord North, Mishriff. We haven't seen Stradivarius yet, but those horses that disappointed for John on Hcap British Champions Day on the testing ground there, and they've all come out bar Stradivarius and looked back to their very best. So you're not worried about the quality of Palace Pier?
No, not really. It was very soft grounded back end, and at the end of the day, he didn't run bad. I know he was a strong favourite; he was odds on to win it, but he didn't run bad. He was third. When you consider a horse like Circus Maximus was beaten 10 lengths or something, that's the kind of performance you'd say he didn't run well. But Palace Pier ran all right. He just didn't win, and he probably came up against certainly the French horse, the Revenant, a horse that likes soft ground, and Palace Pier probably didn't cope with it as well. But yeah, I don't think you need to start questioning his ability. I'd question whether he's going to be at his best in a small field, like Sam said. I don't. If they don't go any pace whatsoever, he did make the running once around Sandown when he was 1-8 to win a novice race, but since he's stepped into group company, he's been ridden patiently, and that might concern you. It's a no bet race for me. I was looking at Kazam, like Sam said, but for a horse that hasn't really shown much form on turf, he's shown much better form on the all weather. I think that's a bit of a worry for him. And Happy Power, I mean, he's all right, but I just don't see him as a miler, to be honest. And Bless Him is another one that likes being held up. So it was a messy race and not one I was particularly wanted to have a bet in, to be honest.
Sam being brave and fair play to him for that. Deasy, you're sitting this one out, right?
Yeah, no bet.
Yeah, me too. Welcome along to Peter, Helen as well. And Helen quite rightly congratulating Peter's punts on his Scottish national pick. I tell you what, Peter, you seem to always have a good weekend when you're with us. So well done. Well done. Many congratulations. Move on to the next on Friday, which is the Classic Trial. How do they bet here? My horse to follow for the season is the horse that heads the betting, so he's naturally going to be my best bet. What's the prices, Dees?
Yeah, so Yibber is 3.5, then you've Lone Eagle at 5.8, Trawlerman is 8.6, Adair is 9.6, Sir Lucan is 10.0. Sorry, Mr. Etonian is 8.6. Sir Lucan is 10.0. Recovery Run is 11.5. Bellaccio is 17.5, and Alan Queer is 19.5. Alan Queer.
I'll just kick off with this because he's a horse I really like, Yibir. When he made his debut, it was behind his stable companion Master of the Seas, and initially, I suppose on pedigree, you could see why this horse opened up favourite, and then Master of the Seas subsequently was supported against him. I spoke to the trainer before the race actually, and he sort of indicated why. He said Yibir is a big tank of a horse who's going to come into his own next year. He ran in a hood first time as well. I think he did anyway. He certainly had one in the paddock. I think he did. And he said, we can't teach him any more at home. He's just got a race to learn. But they really liked him. He's a beautifully bred horse. And Master of the Seas has since come out and, he's up there in the betting for the Guineas. I just got the impression that they expected a lot more progression from Yibir. And he showed it. He won the Haynes, Hanson and Clark last time. He looks a horse who's going to come into his own over at least 10 and probably further. And the form of the Haynes, Hanson and Clark is rock solid. He's going to be favourite, so I have to make him my best bet because I've been sort of quietly singing about him for much of the winter as a horse I really like this season. Whether or not he will win like a best bet here, I don't know, but that's why I have to stick to my guns with Yibir. I like him a lot. And I think he'll develop and have a really good year. But I'm on my own in liking Yibir. So, Dees, I'll come to you first off the back of my shout.
Yeah, I've gone for Aidan O'Brien's horse, Sir Lucan. I thought it was it stood out that he entered him in this. And I look back over the last 10 years, and Aidan O'Brien has only run 3 horses in this race, and he's had 2 seconds and a first. I think he won at the back end of last season. He beat a horse called Flying Visit that recently came second in the Ballysack Stakes. And before that, he ran in the Beresford Stakes behind High Definition. Now, he was kind of blocked in on one stage, had a bit of interference, but ran on fairly well. He was closing at the end. I just think that the fact that Aidan is sending him over here is a good pointer. And again, he's a nice price. I'd probably have a small win and a nice place betting him because there's a lot of good horses in this.
Giles says it's a strong renewal of the classic trial. I think they always feel strong when you've got horses that have got the whole future ahead of them. But I think it probably is, to be honest. What with Aidan sending one in there, Sam? What do you think about how strong a renewal this is?
Yeah, I think there's it's a good field of very much unexposed colts. You've got a good cross section as well, some good British representation. Obviously, the Irish runner, Godolphin aren't scared to run 3. I think it's a really good race. I take on board everything you say about Yibir. I like the fact that he's got experience at Sandown as well. I think that's a massive positive. But I probably fancy one a little bit from left field just because of what he managed to do at Pontefract, and that's Trawlerman, who is only rated 93. And I think it's fascinating that John Gosden is happy to throw away what looks a tidy mark, really. And I thought he was an absolute natural for something like a good quality Royal Ascot Handicap or even something Guineas Weekend. But no, he's sort of plunged him in here, which I think is an intriguing move. He certainly didn't look short of pace at Pontefract. He clocked some very, very good numbers. Both the overall time and the sectional times were brilliant. He obviously bolted up. It was a small field. It wasn't a very competitive race. He was, I would say, entitled to win as he did. But certainly the clock didn't lie. It was a really stunning performance. And I'm surprised that he's not attracted a bit more support. I suppose the figures and, the weights and measures guys won't give him a chance. But John Gosden's done this a number of times when you've got a horse that's probably rated, even as low as late 80s, early 90s, winning them straight into a group race off the back of a good performance. He doesn't seem worried about wasting a good handicap mark when he can win a pattern race of this nature. So I'm going to back him win and place, and he's the best bet of the day for me.
Interesting. Giles agrees with you with Trawlerman.
Good man, Giles. Good man.
I think that was a real. You know, sometimes I listen to what you guys say. I think that was a really good case. You've got me worried, Sam. Got me worried.
Well, I always find it very interesting. John Gosling tends to do it a bit more with fillies, I think. He's happy to bung a 80 or 90 rated filly into a listed or group race, and it's probably more important for that sort of side of the pedigree. But I thought it was fascinating that he was happy to let Trawlerman take his chance here, and obviously he's another one that's got race sharpness and on his side and that fitness as well at this point of the season. And this is a big stepping stone for him, whereas one or two of the others, they might just see it as a bit of a more gradual run before going on to better things further down the line.
It's always harder when John's got two in the race to know which one is going to finish first and second. Let's steady. Oh, I thought I was a harsh man. Anyway, let's not get too political. Jonesy.
Harsh.
I thought it was harsh. Only got 3 weeks.
Well, I think if you'd put a note on the end, I think that would have been fair.
Jonesy, what do you think? Go on, Dees. I want to hear it. Go on, Dees. Go on.
If that happened in Ireland, there would be uproar for months over it. Absolute uproar about the integrity of the game and all this kind of stuff. Like 21 days is ridiculous. He should be getting the rest of the
Don't go suggesting that doesn't happen in Ireland.
Of course that's in Ireland. Not that blatant.
They're not normally in the screen in Ireland. Very far back.
They don't get that close in the per temps qualifiers in Ireland, that's for sure.
Let's move on with the tips. What have I done? I've opened a can of worms. Let's move on. Jonesy, what's your tip for this?
I think it's a very competitive race. Aidan O'Brien coming over here with Sir Lucan. I'll be interested to see if he makes it to the Classics, because I thought Sir Lucan might go missing at some point. But that was a terrible joke, because it's not even Sir Lucan, it's Lord Lucan. I know that, but I tried my hardest.
You chisel that one in, haven't you?
I think is he a full brother or half brother to Sir Dragonet? So I was a bit worried about the ground quickening up for him. Anyway, the one I came across was another horse that I'm a bit worried about the ground, but I think he might get away with it. It's Bellocchio. I liked this horse last season. Won at Salisbury first time up in a race that has worked out really well. The next two home have both won their next two starts, and only two starts. And to do that on debut, having missed the break and been out the back a lot of the time until the race hotted up, I thought Bellocchio did really well to win that day. I think stepping up in distance will help, and went over to France to win a listed race over there again on soft ground. That was at Toulouse, so maybe it wasn't the strongest race that's ever run in France or the strongest listed race, but then the runner-up came out and won at Longchamp in a Group 3 just the other week. So I think the form stacks up, and there's reasons to hope that Bellocchio will handle the better ground. I think there'll be a nice pace for him to run at. They can just sit. David Egan can sit in midfield somewhere and pick them up. And I think he's overpriced, definitely. I think Dee said about 17.0, something like that. And David Menuisier has started the season well, had a couple of winners. So in what I think is a hugely competitive race, and I do like Yabia, I think he sets the standard. But I think this horse is more than capable of getting involved, and I'd rather back him win and place than anything solely to win. Sam?
Just a final point on Trawlerman, just to fetch up his sectional times from Pontefract. Waldkönig did 49.9 from the 4 and 26.1 from the turn. Trawlerman was 48.5 and 24.8, so approximately 7 lengths quicker. 6 to 7 lengths quicker than Waldkönig. Over a mile and a half as well, and a strong overall time. So not cheap. It wasn't cheap sectionals. It was on the collar all the way.
Interesting. He could definitely finish second to you, definitely. Good stuff. Right, let's move on to best bets then for Friday. We've got Friday best bets for you. We've got 4 races to choose from, or they can be anywhere else on Friday. I'm going to kick off with your beer for reasons I've given. I'm a huge fan of the horse, and I'm thinking and hoping he could have a very strong season. Sam, your best bet? You're taking me on?
Yeah, I'm going to go Trawlerman and give an honourable mention to Alminar in the 240 at Perth, the horse of Nigel Hawkes with Kieran Buckley on. He's got a good record on him. He wants fast ground, right-handed track, good ground. I think anything double figures for him is fair enough.
You've reminded me to also mention Nash Nasher in the subsequent race on Friday. Charlie Appleby's filly. There's an unraced Gosden filly who's favourite, and the amount of unraced Gosden fillies that really find time to hit stride out the stalls and then improve for a run. This Nash Nash is going to have a much better season. I'm also going to back her in there as a best bet. Thanks for the reminder. Steve Jones.
World Koenig, I think is going to have a big season, and I think it will start rolling from here.
And in that same race, Deasy is taking you on with
Hcap. Hcap for the win.
Hcap for the win. There you go. Those are Friday best bets, everyone. Should we move on to the end of the jump season?
Let's.
The Novices final, Handicap Hurdle. Wow, this is another tough one. 155 Saturday, Sandown. Prices, D. You don't have to go through all of them. Who are the main ones?
Yeah, so Celestial Force is the favourite at 6.0. Then you have Anti Victory at 8.0. Goilo is 9.0. Ryan Munini is 9.0. It's easier when I'm watching the Eurovision. Ryan Munini.
Nil point.
Yeah, Lily Petter is 10.0. Rockstar Rani is 10.0. Hardy is 10.0. Pavlovsky is 11.0. And Big Prices in the rest.
Lovely job. That's almost as good as Fields of Fat Henry, isn't it, Jonesy? Right on. We've got a couple of that's Fields of Athenry, of course. A couple of On to Victory fans here. Dees, why?
I think he probably has a bit in hand because he's had a few, like he's fallen this year. He hasn't finished out a few of his races, but I thought he was very good the last time. I think the good ground is probably going to bring out the best in him. And I think Alan King does fairly well in this race. He was the one that stood out to me just on first look at it. Again, he won recently. He's been freshened up. This is probably a target. I think he'll run well here and probably have a few good runs in the flat then as well in the summer.
You'd imagine he would, given the trainer. Sam, you're in agreement?
Yeah, not a lot to add really. Just as a Rock of Gibraltar horse, just the opportunity to get on better ground. He's obviously only had 4 starts, 3 of them completed, so he might be a bit fresher than most. So that was my thinking. Then a few of these have been banging their head against a brick wall for much of the winter. So fingers crossed he comes here a fresher horse and he can go well. It could be a reasonable day, God willing, for Alan King.
I like the horse right at the top of the betting, Celestial Force. I had a good look at Isolate, who finished way behind him he finished way behind Isolate at Taunton. But I think it's interesting enough that Celestial Force was put away for a bit before that. He was then given a wind up, and then he was beaten 6 lengths by stable companion Odds On Shot Hell Red last time. And I'm just certain that Paul Nicholls had this race in mind, and he would have picked the ground they've got as well. It doesn't always happen here, but I think he'd be absolutely delighted with it. Lorca Williams is going along very well. He hasn't got many, I think, till he rides out his claim. And he rode the horse last time. I think that's sort of half interesting enough. He put him on for that last time. Ground is spot on. I'm sort of looking forward to seeing him in a handicap as well. First going a handicap of 125. And he's still a sort of win and place price as well. So, again, there's about 3 I could have on side, but he was better than Celestial Force. Jonesy.
Yeah, interesting race. I would have been very strong on Lily Pedlar, but the drop in trip is a slight worry. But I just thought she ran so well at Newbury last time in that mare's hurdle final, over 2.5. She really badly hampered 2 out. I thought she was unlucky not to win that day. Bourbon Beauty controlled it from the front. I think this ground is the key to her. She's obviously been running on soft ground all winter, like most horses have, because it's been so wet. So she's by Yates, who often has horses who like decent ground. And I think as long as she isn't inconvenienced too much by the drop in trip. And I think they'll go quite a solid gallop in this, which should help. And hopefully Nico de Boinville will have her just in behind the pace and can see it out up the hill, because I think she's well handicapped. I'm sure of that. And I think she's around 11.0. Is she, Deasy? Is that something?
Just after closing the tab here. No, sorry, Jonesy.
Sorry, but I think she's around that kind. And that's double figures is it's good enough for me.
Yeah, that's about right. Can I just very quickly? Anybody worried about Hendo's horses? Is that just something I've got him? That's just a little niggle for me. Is that obviously Jonesy? You're not. Nobody else. It's just me. That's fine. That's fine.
Tom, why are you worried about them?
Just feel that a few on the big stage have just run a little bit poorly. I mean, his strike rate's not up to where it should be. I think that Chantry House would have been beaten at Aintree had the other horse stood up anyway. So even though he had that winner, no, just the last sort of 3 weeks to a month or so.
Yes, but I mean the Inval won at Ayr, as he does,
yeah.
And they've had a winner at Perth this afternoon. So yeah, maybe they're not flying along at the normal strike rate, but I wouldn't say they're out of nick myself.
No, it's probably a bit. In a race like this where I was looking to put a line through some for whatever reason, that was sort of half one of them. Sorry, Steve, go on.
Yeah, this time of year, I think strike weight is sort of decided because the top trainer, someone like Nicky Henderson, has so many runners at Cheltenham and then Aintree, and it sort of skews the strike rate. I don't worry that much. Like Sam said, they're having winners. Maybe that Nicky Henderson hasn't had the season he sometimes has with the volume of winners. So I wouldn't be all that concerned, especially with a horse like Lily Pedler, who I think's got improvement in her.
And she's a fair price, and not knocking taking that sort of price at all. Let's move on to the next Sandown before we go to Haydock. It's the Oaksey Chase. I'm sitting this one out. Frodon is odds on. What price, Dease?
Frodon is 1.7. Then you've Mr. Fisher 3.0. Barn Survivor is 10.0. And Mediterranean is 34.0.
I don't think we'll spend forever on this one. Helen's pointing out the Pistol Whips has just gone in at Perth for Hendo. Thanks a lot, Hendo. You just no more winners, please. Making me look a fool.
They're on fire.
They are. Dease, did you want to come in with something on this race?
No, that was actually on Nicky Henderson. To alright.
Go on. What did you want to add? We're still talking about Hendo.
I think that he could be suffering from Corky Brown leaving. I think he hasn't had a season as bad as this. Well, not as bad, but I don't think he's been done very well this year. And I think that Corky Brown had a huge influence there in terms of keeping the horses fit. And he always said he was very good with their legs and things like that. And I think that could be affecting him.
Interesting. Jonesy?
I was just going to ask, is Corky Brown gone to Henry de Bromhead's by any chance?
Very good. Right, we've got a couple who like Frodon here. Dease and I we're not brave enough to get involved. I suppose he's the obvious one. Is he a betting prospect, Sam?
No, because I think he's yet to register a victory in April. His 3 runs at April, admittedly a couple of them have come at Aintree, which may not be his favourite venue. And he's had a fairly light campaign bar a hard race in the Gold Cup 5 weeks ago. But it's not necessarily his time of year, which would be a little bit of a concern. It certainly stopped me betting him at 8-13. Mr. Fisher's from a yard that are bang out of nick, and he's had a hard couple of weeks of it. I'm going to do all I can to resist backing the other 2 in the race, to be honest, at 9.0 and probably a bit bigger than 34.0. I thought Militarian ran really well to a point at Aintree. He's got the cheek pieces on. He's 11 years of age. He's about 2 stone wrong, but it's the end of the season. Funny things happen, and Andrew Martin's done quite well with his horses this year. So I'll have a tiny bet on him for a bit of crack, and probably a couple of bob on Born Survivor as well. It strikes me it could be a funny old race. That, I mean, Mr. Fisher, he's been campaigned very unhendo-like, really. Obviously, he ran. And ran well to a point in Allaho's Ryanair, trying to keep on tabs with an absolute flying machine there. and then obviously unseated at Aintree. So he's done a fair bit of travelling recently. He's had a couple of bruising encounters, and he's sort of second favourite over a trip he's yet to win off. So there was just one or two question marks in the race. I'll have a couple of small bets on the two outsiders for a bit of crack, probably.
But you wouldn't just lay Frodon, it would just be a bet on another couple. Would you be tempted to lay Frodon at the prices?
Yeah, I think there's a bit more juice in backing,
the two outsiders.
Yeah, look, I see, like Frodon is absolutely brilliant form, that Gold Cup. I'm absolutely convinced it's a red hot renewal of the race, and he ran brilliantly for a big percentage of it. So I'd rather just take a bit of a chance with the other two. I know I'm throwing probably good money after bad, but at least they're both fairly fresh. They look with Born Survivor as though this has been the plan. So I'll just have a small split stakes with the two, just for something to watch, and be happy if Frodon manages to win, probably.
Steve Jones?
Yeah, with Frodon. I think Mr. Fisher might have lost his confidence a bit. I think his jumping wasn't great at Cheltenham. And obviously last time at Aintree he unseated, and that wasn't his first mistake either. He's got his ground, but it's 2-6 and a bit. I don't like Jeremy's. He's well named as a son of Jeremy, and I don't like them when they go beyond 2.5 miles, really. So if your jumping's not up to scratch and you're taking on Frodon, I think there's only one result, because he is a superb jumper. And this is probably his trip, around 2-6. I think this is probably his idea. He obviously gets further, but I think getting out in front around a track like this, it would be lethal. And I thought Born Survivor would probably finish second, but it's not really a race I want to go steaming into. But I like Frodon. I think he's a fantastic sight to watch, and I think he'll win another race on Saturday. So
fair enough. That's the Oaksey Chase. Not a huge betting race for us. We kick on to a cheeky little one at Haydock on the flat. The 7 furlongs. It is cheeky as well. It's not easy. Main prices, Dees.
Yeah, so Dream Loper is 5.0. Then you have Persuasion at 7.0. Marshall Dan is 9.0. Firmament is 11.0. Fox Champion 11.0. Gobi Sunset 11.0. Mustamara is 12.0. Admiral 3 and Cold Stare are both 14.0. And it's big prices then for the rest.
Sam, you're looking at Dream Loper ahead of betting?
Yeah, very unoriginal selection, but did like him a lot. I mean, he won a minor race at Redcar, pulling a cart on very fast ground, and recorded a really good speed figure. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite so effective on the synthetic surface at Kempton next time, but at least he proved the Redcar result of the time and the performance wasn't an anomaly by winning at Ascot over the mile in the race that's worked out quite nicely. So I think Ed Walker's had any number of sort of early season winners as well. Came from the dark. Noble Queen won the other day. I mean, there must be in good nick if she's won. Peerless, Paxos, one or two others. So the stable's gone really well since the turf season started, and I think there's a definite bit of upside with him. Wonder, he might win something like this, and they might then put him away for, I don't know, a Hunt Cup or something off, 95, 96, and I think he'd be an interesting horse. He's obviously won at Ascot, likes a straight track, having won there in Redcar, and he's the kind of horse I think that could progress from 3 to 4. I don't think he's sort of been knocked around and abused yet, so he's definitely one I want to keep on side this year.
That's Dream Loper. My only niggle was straight track at Ascot. I have it in my head that it just might not work out quite the same for all Dream Loper one.
Yeah.
Did you want to come back on that?
No, I take that on board. The fact that there looks a little bit of pace, I think, in this race, one or two that might look to get away from him, and that could be a bit of an issue if Marshall Dan or Gobi Sunset, they set off and go a right good gallop. They might not be coming back here on fast ground. Well, that's if it's good to firm ground. Yeah. But he's a horse that I do like, and this might also be a little bit of a prep. It's over a trip that's probably just a bit short of his best nowadays as well. So got all that in mind. So only a small bet.
Stephen Jones with a V.
No, I couldn't make head or tail of it.
Oh, that's right.
So
that's right. To be completely fair, Jonesy had some late notice here, and I told him to focus on Sandown. Quite right too.
Or
Yeah,
defensive.
That was a leave, Sam. It was a leave.
It was. I apologise because it was meant to be Adele, and there's people who've tuned in to see Adele probably are a little bit disappointed.
It's a sexual upgrade. It's fine. Adele, if you're watching, I'm joking, obviously. She's not watching because she couldn't make it for good reason.
It's like tuning in to get Adele and ended up with Gemma Collins, really, isn't it?
Dees, I liked both Charlie Hill's horses, and I've gone with the bigger price one. You're the shorter price of them. Persuasion.
Yeah, I'm hoping now. If you go back through his form, I mean, the only kind of standout thing is finishing second to Wichita in his 2-year-old season. But I liked his run at the back end of last season behind Tom Freight Leicester. No, it was an absolutely heavy ground. I don't think he liked it, but he kept on staying, and he seemed to be kind of probably enjoying the game a bit more than in his previous runs. I think Charlie Hills is doing all right this season, and but he would be a win-only bet, no, a very small win-only bet. He's there at the top of the market. The other one I liked was Fox Champion. Now he's after moving to Rafe Beckett. He's been gelded. I think that he's top weight in this, but he's after coming absolutely tumbling down the ratings. At one time he was rated 110. He's running a lot of big races against a lot of good horses. Seemed to have lost his way a bit, but back at the start of 2019, he was very good over 7 furlongs on fast ground. I think that if the stable change and the gelding operation, there's a few things. If these can switch him on again, I think he could be far better than a lot of these horses. So he would be my main play, and he'd be a win in the place, and Persuasion a small win as well.
I can certainly see the small win on Persuasion. I'm going with Dulas though, who has had excuses, and I get worried about backing excuse horses, but he's a solid double-figure price. He's been gelded, and he did look tricky last year. He came out that Leicester race. He was only 5 1/4 lengths behind highest ground. I think flattered to finish that close, probably. That was on quick ground. Newcastle made all. It's not horrendous form either. And then he was 2 free at Doncaster up to back over 7 furlongs this trip. Newmarket played up in the stalls. There are excuses, and then never got a run. Sent off 4 to 1 that day, having been 5 to 2 favourite, 3.5 I should say, off £3 higher. Chelmsford again got a real bump coming out the stalls, and then ran on, shaping as though he wanted a return to 7, and then last time was really disappointing over the 6. So he's now rated 80. He's been gelded. I think he wants fast ground. Yes, the excuses are mounting up, but I wouldn't be surprised were he to be a lot better than this mark. And maybe the fact that he's been gelded just means that he's a little bit more straightforward. So that's my hope at a big price. Anything to add, chaps? We're done. Let's go back to Sandown and the Celebration Chase. Prices, these.
So Put the Kettle On is favoured at 3.0. Then you have Altior is 4.0. Soreal is 5.0. Grenadine is 7.5. Nutswell is 14.0. Arnua is 32.0. And Dallas is 50.0.
Stupid shout of the day. Dolos doesn't have as much to find as the prices suggest. I don't know why he's a bigger price than Ornua. Definitely wants to go right-handed. That first flow form isn't bad. Wants good ground. He will probably finish 3rd or 4th, but he's not the outsider of the field, and therefore I'm having a small win-only bet on Dolos. Steve Jones.
Yeah, well, if you can't beat them, and I can't beat them, you've got to join them. And I spent all of Cheltenham taking these Irish horses on, and that went really well. And but to be fair, Put the Kettle On is a really nice mare. For some reason, I didn't really like her to start with. I thought the Arca wasn't a great race, and then when she came over to Cheltenham in November, I didn't think that was all that great. But she just keeps winning, and what she did at Cheltenham was in the Queen Mother Champion Chase was exceptional. It's really tough. She just gets on the front end and keeps jumping and galloping, and that's all you want. I was tempted by So Royal, because obviously he likes fast ground, and he was badly hampered at Cheltenham. And I think that people think that he would have probably won. The people that are pricing this up have priced it up on that he was unlucky, but I don't think he'd have put the kettle on. And I'm quite surprised, to be honest, that she's 3.0. I thought she'd be a lot shorter, and then for that reason, I'm with her. I think she's certainly sets the standard by a fair way. And So Royal's run style of coming from off the pace isn't ideal at Sandown. So yeah, I think she's got, with the £7 mare's allowance, she's got everything in her favour.
Fair enough. And you like So Royale, Sam Turner?
I do, yeah. I think, the handicap will have you believe that his last two performances in beating Champ and then finishing a rather unlucky fifth in the Champion Chase were right up there with his career best performances. And if that is the case, then, I think he could obviously have finished a good bit closer at Cheltenham if there hadn't been one or two traffic problems. I think that's the understatement of the season, really. Quite why Darrell was burrowing away, trying to get up the inside there, I don't know. But that said, quite what one or two of the other jockeys were doing, shutting the door on him quite so viciously, was another case in point. So I think perhaps Put the Kettle On got the run of the race that day. I think she was a bit fortunate to beat Nubia Negra. I think she was a bit fortunate to beat Sorel. And I just like the fact that this is a bit of a home gig for him on his favoured fast ground. I mean, there should be no excuses Saturday afternoon, really. He's thrived this year. He's 9. He's still got that latent turn of foot and that pace. And if they're not going to go into this race really fancying their chances of finding 3 lengths on even faster ground than they've tackled before, we've Put the Kettle On over a track that he's won at before, then I don't know when he's going to be able to win a race of this nature, really. This is a really great opportunity for him, and I think he's a bit of value, to be honest. I take on board Altior's entry and the fact he's got the cheap pieces on. There's still enough time for him to be a non-runner, so that could still happen. But
I was going to say that, genuinely, non-runner because of the quick ground now.
I just think 2 miles on a quick surface for a horse we haven't seen for 4 months, it'll be a really good performance from him. I'll take my hat off if he manages to win this. But I just think, he's a little cat, isn't he, So Royal? Hopefully he'll just hop his way around these fences off of what looks like it could be a pretty generous pace with Ornua in the field. And obviously Put the Kettle On, and fingers crossed he can pick them up after the last. I think it's a terrific race. Really looking forward to the race, actually. It's the best race on the card by a country mile for me.
Yeah, Giles agrees. He said a cracking race for the celebration.
Giles
he
knows.
Does. He's on it. I want to come to you first, Deasy, and I'll pull up another comment. Ornua, for you, a small win play?
Yeah, I was originally not betting this because I was just looking at, I thought it'd be between the top two, but the more I looked at Ornua, I think there's a lot in his favour, although I'd be very, very surprised if he win. But just at the price, he's much better on good ground. He has actually run at Sandown twice before. He finished second to Dynamite Dollars. I think it was in the Theatre. I can't remember the name of the race now, but he recently won a Veterans Chase at Wexford. Now that's not outstanding form, but Ornua is going to go off out in front. He's good and fit. He will keep galloping, and they're going to have to catch him. So at the very least, you might get a little back to lay playing him if you back him before the race. Like, he could go off at a massive price. You could have a small back bet. Stick if he's about 40.0, stick in a back bet at that. Stick in a lay bet at 20.0. You're getting a free bet then for him to put off a shock. Again, like I think he's a bit overpriced for what he's done before on good ground, and he's also run with a Sandown. So I think I'll be having a small win on him.
And Helen said, "Is there any love anywhere for Altior?" I feel like Sam kind of answered it. With the maybe on this ground, it's a slight concern. Does anybody want to add to Altior?
Just that he has been fantastic, but clearly he's had problems, and he's coming out on a trip that these days looks on the sharp side on decent ground. So I love the horse, but I think he's going to have to hand it over to the younger ones.
Should say he's 5 from 5 at Sandown.
But
if the cheap pieces just induce a little bit more of an ability to travel and induce a bit more interest early doors, then he could end up being a massive price, couldn't he? I wouldn't put a fork in him. I wouldn't want to be laying him, I don't think.
He's unbeaten most places, to be fair.
Yeah,
he doesn't get beat very often.
yeah.
It's not bad though, is it? 5 from 5, Steve. You're a hard man to please, aren't you?
Oh no, he's great. He is great. He's one of the greatest, in my opinion. He doesn't get because people focus on the negative when they think that they need to be telling people where to run and how to run, and they focus on the negative. I think when he retires and you look back, people have to acknowledge what a fantastic champion he's been.
He's been damned by association a bit, hasn't he? To be fair to him. And it's not his fault either that he's had a couple of 11th hour problems. That's just racehorses, isn't it? Surely.
We move on to the biggest betting heat of the day, which is the 365 Gold Cup, as in biggest field, lots of big prices on offer. First 6 or 7 in the betting, Dees?
Yeah, so Plan of Attack is 5.5, El Presente is 7.0, Enrillo is 7.5, Potaman is 10.0, Cross Park is 11.0, Golan Fortune is 12.0, Irish Prophecy is 14.0. I don't think
Plan of Attack for me is just a joke price, but he might go and bolt up. But there you go. Steve Jones, I want you to lead off.
Yeah, I thought that there's a lot of joke prices around for Henry de Bromhead horses, and they've all won. So in this one, might have won at Cheltenham. If he hadn't, and he jumped the fence all right, 3 out. It was in the Fault Wall in Kinmure when he was going really quite nicely when he fell, but he stumbled. It was that kind of where your legs go from under you sort of fall, and he would have certainly been around there, and you just can't take these horses on. It gets a bit demoralising to see them coming over. And on a more serious note, I think if Henry de Bromhead and Willie Mullins and Gordon Elliott that will be next season, if they dominate like this, I think there's a very reasonable chance that one or more of them will think about setting up a satellite yard in Britain, which will up the stakes in a massive way. Because why wouldn't you? If you're having 3, 4, 5 runners in a race in Ireland, why wouldn't you? It'd be very interesting if anything happens on that. But back to the Bet365 Gold Cup, I think Plan of Attack's got a lot going for him. I think he'll stay. I think he'll enjoy going up in distance. The blinkers that he wore last time that seemed to have an effect. He did wear cheap pieces before that, but are still on. Rachel Blackmore, I've noticed. I don't know if anyone else has, that she's been riding quite well, and it's got a nice weight. It's a bit of a strange one because quite often in this race you have the horses at the top of the weights, and then there's quite substantial drops down, and it's quite compact at the top this year. But I still would edge towards, in marathon races, horses with lighter weights, and 11 stone is fine. And we've seen everyone's been bleating about the Irish horses being so well handicapped, and you can still get, what is it, 5.0 Dees, or is
5.5 and
5.5? I mean, if you think Irish horses are £10 well in, which is some people have suggested, but you want to be taking 2.5. So I think Plan of Attack is a very obvious one, but it's one I can't get away from. I thought the one right at the bottom, Supreme Escape, who is £3 out of the handicap, won over 3-6 at Chepstow last time, and this horse, all he does is stay. Handled the good ground last time. He's totally unexposed at this sort of distance. So I'm not worried that he's £3 wrong at the weights, because he's got a featherweight, which helps, and he's clearly capable of being competitive off higher handicap ratings than this. And so I thought he was the one that was overpriced. So I would probably have a little bit win in place on Supreme Escape.
Supreme Escape and Plan of Attack. Sam.
I'm a bit sad that Clanderzobo's not running. I think it would have been great crack to see him running this, a bit like Tidal Bay, or horse with plenty of weight and a class act, trying to give weight away. But I can understand why they're going to Punchestown. The trip here might have just stretched him a little bit, so I do get that. So we're left with a rather unsatisfactory renewal, if I'm honest. I mean, like, as much as I love Old Cross Park, if he's top weight in a race of this nature, and he has finished second on all 3 Sandown starts, so he looks a good place vehicle, if nothing else. But if he's top weight, it doesn't really scream a race chock full of exciting up-and-coming chasers, really. So I've tried to go for one that's a bit younger. I like a strand of form, really, was that Wincanton race, the Badger Beers, where El Presente beat Potterman. And I'll just have a small bet probably on both, and I'll select Potterman as the pick. He goes very well at this time of year. I think he's run 3 times in April, won all 3 races. Good ground horse, goes well, right-handed, stays well, pretty genuine and honest horse. And if I think Alan King's got a good chance in the first race, the Novice Handicap, and he's got a good chance in the Celebration Chase, then I've probably got to be with him here as well. So pushing all the chips in onto King. Red number 1, Mr. King. Fingers crossed you managed to do the business on Saturday afternoon.
For me, it was between Potterman and El Presente, and I've gone with El Presente. So there you go.
Okay.
I think that's decent form. I just like the way that El Presente, after that race, the Badger Beers, they said 365 Gold Cup done. Kim, this horse is a good ground, smallish horse. Kim Bailey always said the same about Docklands Express, who won it from a few years ago. So maybe I'm just being romantic, but he gave him a spin right-handed, good ground last time, where he was very weak in the betting. It was just a prep run for this, and I think he's just a very obvious one. But if I think that Plan of Attack's too short, then I've got to get stuck into this horse, who's, I think, because of Plan of Attack's just bigger than he should be. So El Presente for me, just over Potterman. Dees.
In Rilo for me. No, he was going to be near the very bottom of the handicap when Clanderzobo was in, but he's carrying 11 stone 5 now. He won at Newbury there in February. He won it over just under 3 miles, and he beat Hold the Note and Ballymoy. Both of them have gone on to run well since that. Hold the Note finished 4th, and Kimura and Ballymoy has won a few times. I think that he's being stretched out a bit in distance, but he's from the same sire as Album Photo, so I think he'll stay. He's after being fairly well backed. He's what is he 7.5 here now. I think that there's a bit of a correction in him. I think going a bit further will help him. He'll enjoy the ground. Paul Nicholas has a great record in this race, so happy enough with him.
Can see that. He's won here before. There we go. That is done on Saturday. Best bets for Saturday. Steve Jones, your best bet on Saturday afternoon.
Put the kettle on.
Will do. Deasy, your best bet Saturday afternoon.
In Rilo.
And Sam Turner.
Jonesy, I'm coming for you. So Royale.
Oh, I like that. And then Deasy, I'll come for you with El Presente. There we are. And the Bromheads also win half the track. Thanks very much, all. Absolute pleasure. That's Friday, Saturday done. We'll see. There'll be a mixture of the guys next week in the 2 different pods we're doing. So we've got the Monday Punchestown special, and then Friday the Guinea special. What a week it is next week. Well done, everyone. Sam, thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, Tom.
Micheál, DC, always a pleasure.
Nice one.
Steve Jones, lovely stuff. Thanks all. Thanks for watching. And we will see you again on Monday. Very much look forward to it. Have a very good weekend all. Bye-bye.